Moon, the closest celestial body to Earth. It is currently very isolated, with no humans on it. But what would colonization of the Moon be like, and what are some good plans for it? Well, the plans to colonize the Moon skyrocketed since the discovery of water ice on the surface of the Moon, when a satellite crashed into it. The water ice is hidden in the shadows of the South Pole, in craters. And because light never touches those places, temperatures in those shadows get to -200 Celsius and never even melt the ice. This discovery made the Moon a lot more appealing to colonize, since we wouldn't need to carry a lot of water, which is a huge drawback on other places. So how should we go about decolonization? Well, as the water ice is found on the poles, the settlement or moon base is likely going to be near those places on the Moon. Now, since carrying a moon base to the Moon is very expensive and near impossible as of right now, it was proposed that we make the moon base and other settlements out of the soil that is on the Moon. In fact, there was a 3D printed brick that was made out of the similar materials that are on the Moon. So that is quite a plausible scenario in which we combine the use of materials that are on the Moon and Earth. To get food, we could create a big garden terrarium, plant some potatoes, salad, and other good food sources. All you need to do to make such a terrarium is to fill it with air, and provide it sunlight, and water could replenish itself if it has some. Also, you wouldn't need to keep the temperatures at normal amounts of degrees. Terrariums are basically sealed ecosystems that sustain themselves, and you could even make them yourself to see that they work. The big terrarium would supply the whole settlement with food, but it is unclear how will the plant life adapt to gravity that is 5.5 times weaker, and a nighttime of 2 weeks. But some artificial solutions, like a fake day-night cycle, might work. They also could get water, as said, from the poles. And when the settlement with moon bases is finally created, it would be a pretty good practice for the Martian colony. Plus, it is a lot easier to settle onto the Moon than on the Mars, the most important factor being the distance. The Moon is on average 592 times closer than Mars. It is practically right there on the cosmic scale. So when humans settle onto the Moon, what will they do? Well, they could study the Moon's past and determine a lot of things about the early solar system and Earth through the inspection of the old surface that holds almost all the secrets. And one of the most interestingly good things that they could do is building the telescopes. Moon is many times better for ground telescopes than the Earth. Now, that is because the Moon has no atmosphere, or at least does not have a significant one. Atmosphere just makes the pictures blurry and messy. That's why we send telescopes into space. So because the Moon has no atmosphere, unlike Earth, it would be the perfect place to make telescopes. Now, there is a limit on how large of a telescope can we send into space. Usually we have to unfold the mirrors to make the telescope even work. So if the telescopes are assembled right there on the Moon, we practically can make the mirrors with not any big limits on how large will they be. Likely we will make the mirrors of the telescopes hundreds of meters long, compared to the currently largest telescopes, which are only a couple of tens of meters long. So with this insanely large telescope, we would be able to study everything. The pictures would be crisp clear, and exoplanets, planets of other systems and other suns could be seen. We would study many of them and likely find an Earth-like planet easily. The edge of the observable universe, black holes, galaxies, billions of light years away. We would be able to observe them directly and very clearly. Humans would be making breakthroughs and discoveries in a short amount of time, all the time. But after all, it is not all that good, because humans that do live there will experience lots of health problems, from the radiation which would increase cancer levels, to weakening of the bones and muscles because of gravity. Most of their time would be needed to be spent working out to keep the muscles in the right condition. Otherwise, they would not be able to return to Earth and would shorten their lifespans drastically. Also, it is quite exhausting to the eye to look at the same black and white surface for such a long amount of time, and a 2-week nighttime will not help solve any of the mental problems. Now, there are some plans by SpaceX, a private company that created reusable rockets to send humans to the Moon by 2018. Very ambitious, and we likely will hear some future plans for the Moon base in a few years, if not from them, from someone else. So all in all, to live on the moon is quite a thought. It would be very exhausting mentally, but overall some discoveries for sure were to be made if such a plan were to happen. The risk and money really is nothing compared to the findings that would be made.